Hey everybody, it's Caleb here, and this isn't an episode of Tactics. This is just to give you guys kind of a programming update on this. So here's the deal. We have been working behind the scenes to try to make the show better. We've got some new equipment, hopefully, that's going to streamline things, that will allow us to do more programming for you, to make more content, to do more of the mini videos, that kind of thing. We are working hard towards it. We are doing the best that we can to try to get everything done in a timely manner, and this has caused a lot of problems for us. Hopefully, we will have it back up and running next week. I intend to, if nothing else, use the weekend. I may even be able to work out to do an episode tomorrow. That's what I'm working on right now. Maybe if my tech cooperates with me, we'll get all that done. But I did want to show you, since we aren't able to do an episode today, just do a little bit of content. Some of you might find this interesting, especially those of my fan base that are kind of tech guys. So this is actually the new computer that I built, and so you can see, pretty big PC, pretty beefy rig. And one thing that you may notice is, despite the fact that this rig is really big, despite the fact that it's a pretty sizable and has a lot of equipment, a lot of hardware running inside of it, got a decent sized memory card, has a really big CPU cooler, has several fans all over it. You may notice that you're not really hearing it in the background. Now, a little bit of that is some radio magic, and so if I were to turn my filters off right now, you see you can hear it just a little bit, but even with the filters off, not much. And once the filters are back on, it's practically non-existent. So that's really one of the main things that we've been doing, and I have to just give some props and give a quick endorsement, even though they're not paying me for this. I just think that it's a great product. If you are somebody that's interested in technology, if you are looking to do your own PC build and you want to emphasize keeping everything quiet, which of course is very important for me because of what I do, and the ability for a big beefy rig like that to run at a very low volume, I've got to recommend a lot of Be Quiets. That's a brand name, Be Quiet. I gotta recommend a lot of their hardware, because you may have noticed that my CPU cooler is a Be Quiet, my case itself is a Be Quiet, which it has some really cool vented fans that the vents actually have sound dampening technology inside them, so the fans are running, but you're not hearing a lot of it because of that. And they also have another one of the fans that every CPU has to have is the power source. The power source is actually down inside. You notice if you were to look back at it, you can't actually see the power source. That's because the power source is up underneath that platform there, and it actually is pointed downward below the computer, so all the hot air blows out that way. So very efficient, and also really good for keeping the noise to a minimum. And I gotta commend them. It's a great product. And if you're building something with quiet in mind, can't recommend them highly enough. So just something cool for some of my fans out there. I know that I picked a really bad week for all of this to go down, because we've got, of course, the impeachment hearing. We've got a couple of bombshells, at least according to the Democrats, on Donald Trump. There's one that has a little bit to it. The other one, pretty much nothing. I know that there's a lot going on there, and because of that, I am going to try to eke out an episode tomorrow. I don't have the resources for it. My video editing isn't there. I can't really do a show that is of the quality that I want for my audience the way that I normally do. And because of that, and because I have a commitment, especially with News Radio 1440, to always give my best to the show and always do the best show that I can't really do that with the technology I have. You may even notice, if you're looking at it right now, that even my main camera is a little bit wonky, a little bit different than it normally is, and I'm still trying to iron out all of the details with that. So please be patient, bear with me. I'm working on that right now. But I figured, since I've got you here, and since this requires no special effects, no news clips, which I've got a bunch of news clips I'm going to be sharing of Nancy Pelosi tomorrow, and a lot of other things that I'm working on too. One thing that I thought it might be kind of cool to talk about and to bring to your attention, it actually goes back to a story that happened to me when I was just 5 years old. When I was in kindergarten, there was actually this time where I brought a snack that wasn't allowed. Now, this kind of goes back to the whole big nanny state thing. Come to think of it, this may have been the moment that I realized how stupid the nanny state was. I think I may have picked up on this all the way back when I was 5 years old. And the irony of all of this is that they were trying to get us to regulate ourselves. They were trying to regulate what the students at this school ate by making us cut out all sugar, and we weren't allowed to have any kind of snacks that had any kind of sugar in it, which is absurd on a number of levels because fruit has sugar in it. I mean, really, just raw fruit, a strawberry or a blueberry or an apple has sugar in it. And so it's one of these things that they don't think the parents are smart enough to take care of their kids and decide what's right for them, and so they have these ridiculous, absurd rules. And my mom actually sent a snack that was easy for her one day. Pop-Tart. Kellogg's used to make these little tiny Pop-Tarts, these little Pop-Tart minis that they would put in little bags, and it was easy for my mom to throw in there, and she didn't have anything for a snack for me this particular day. She sent me a little bag of Pop-Tarts. And me, 5 years old, criminal mastermind that I was, I pulled out my Pop-Tarts just like I did any other day and started eating them. The teacher got very upset. They sent me to in-school suspension for this. I mean, they blew the whole thing way out of proportion. And I think that maybe, and I'm not sure if this is like, I don't think this is like the origin of every one of my political beliefs or anything, but that may have been the very, very first inclination that I had that a bunch of government regulations are stupid. Because the thing is, it's not like I was a fat kid or a morbidly obese kid, which even if I was, it's still not the school's job to make sure that I'm not. But, you know, having a little, you know, snack of 150 calories, it's really not going to make that big a difference. It didn't set me on a path to be unhealthy for the rest of my life or anything like that. These bureaucrats in Washington and at the Board of Education and all these other things, they really do think that they can, if they just do this regulation and push this law into effect in this particular way, that they're just going to craft society in the way that it ought to be. People don't work like that. There were all kinds of times where in schools they would ban certain drinks, certain sugary drinks, or certain sugary snacks from the vending machines. Look, I'm not saying that I think that they ought to have them in there or not. I'm just saying that this idea that somehow we're going to solve the obesity crisis in America because we take some snacks out of vending machines and replace the regular Lay's chips with the Lay's baked chips, I'm sorry, you're living in a fantasy world if that's you, because all that does is make the kids want to go home and eat those snacks somewhere else. They're acting like they're solving the problem. That's not something that they can do. Just recently with the Michelle Obama thing, trying to have only healthy food in the lunchroom. You know what that did? First of all, the athletes starved to death because they didn't want to eat any of the food because it was horrible. And I remember this because even though I wasn't in high school at the time, I had a brother that was, and I had a father who was a teacher and used to eat in the cafeteria. After that took place, he just started bringing his own lunch. He couldn't do it anymore because the food was so bad. I mean, we feed our prisoners better than we're feeding some of our kids. And the ones, for example, that were athletes, well, you know, if you're a 250-pound, 300-pound offensive lineman and you have to eat a lot to keep your energy up, even if you're actually in pretty good shape, even if you are burning it off and you're an athlete, you still need that. A little kid like me, when I was 5 years old, I was a super skinny kid. Not that super skinny kid anymore. Now it would be better if I cut out some of the sugary snacks, but they acted like I was some kind of morbidly obese kid that was at some kind of risk if I ate a freaking tiny Pop-Tart. And so this idea that there is a whole class of people, and if there are two candidates in the race right now, in the Democrat race, that embody that we just know better than you, and if you just listen to us, if we just enforce these rules, you'll live a better life because we understand what you need more than you do. If there are two candidates at all that just absolutely embody what that is, it's Michael Bloomberg and Elizabeth Warren. Those are the two. Those are the two that really, more than any other candidates in this race, embody that nanny state mentality. I mean, Michael Bloomberg signed a law in New York City that said you're not allowed to have a Coke more than 16 ounces. The companies literally had to make new bottles and new smaller portion sizes for these people. Look, if a person wants to drink 40 ounces of Coke, he's going to figure out a way to get 40 ounces of Coke. Your regulations are not going to change that. And that's the thing that's so ridiculous, is not only is it not doing any good, it's invading in somebody's privacy. Look, somebody that does take care of their health, that's very careful about it, but their guilty pleasure is a Dr. Pepper. If they've been good all week and they've been, let's say, on a diet for a month, but every once a week or twice a week, they decide to indulge in a big Dr. Pepper, that should be their prerogative. It's not the government's job to protect you from yourself. And in the spirit of all this, and this is what has brought all that up, and the thing that made me think about it, it turns out that Kellogg's has brought back the Pop-Tart Minis, the Pop-Tart Bites as they're calling them out. I don't know if they were called Bites back in the day, but it's the same thing as they were back then. It's these just little tiny Pop-Tarts, and I haven't tried the new ones since they re-released them, so I'm very much looking forward to this. So, just remember, 5-year-old Caleb got in trouble at school, got kicked out of class for this, so... Yep, tastes exactly like I remember. Tastes like freedom. Stay the course, friends.
Tactics is a production of News Radio 1440 and Cumulus Media Montgomery. Any opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Cumulus Media. The theme song for Tactics is 6 Foot Town by Big and Rich. Graphics by Jessica Dawson. Broadcast studios provided by Cumulus Media Montgomery. Location studios provided by the Dalraida Church of Christ.